If you're thinking of moving to Queensland in Australia, you might be wondering what the differences are between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. This video will run through some of the differences between these two places, including the cost of living, rent, beaches, and the general lifestyle there. I'm Lisa from Australian travel and migration blog dreamingofdownunder.com. I'll link to my website and my blog post on this below, but if you want to check out more ideas of where to live in Australia, head over to dreamingofdownunder.com and click on the Where to Live section under the Move to Australia section. In there you'll find lots and lots of Australian city comparisons as well as lifestyle overviews of the capital cities in Australia. You can also download my free city comparison chart. I'll leave a link below, and that compares all the major cities in Australia and lots of factors. Weather, property prices, cost of living, population, that kind of thing. Okay, let's get started. First of all, let's cover the location of Brisbane and the Gold Coast. They are separate cities. Gold Coast isn't part of Brisbane, but they are very close together. So from the centre of Brisbane, it only takes about an hour to drive to the Gold Coast. It's about a 78-kilometre drive, and they're both around halfway up the east coast of Australia in southeast Queensland. Brisbane is a bigger city than the Gold Coast. It's the third largest city in Australia, and it has around 2.5 million people living there, whereas the Gold Coast only has around 670,000 people living there. Next is the weather. Since they sit so close together, they obviously have very similar climates. They both have hot summers with a lot of rain and humidity. They get a rainy season during the summer, and then in the winter the weather tends to be quite clear and sunny and quite dry. If you like the idea of having mild to hot weather year round rather than having a kind of colder winter, then Queensland in general will be quite a good idea for you. Some of the more southern states like New South Wales and Victoria get quite cooler winters. These figures are all from the Bureau of Meteorology. In the hottest month of the year, which is January, both cities have average maximum temperatures of around 29 degrees, and overnight it drops to an average of 21 degrees. But remember, these are averages, so the temperatures can vary a lot, so you will get some really hot days over 40 degrees as well in the summer. In winter time, in July, the coldest month, the average maximum temperature is around 21 degrees, so it's still pretty warm. And overnight, the average minimum temperature in July drops to around 9.5 degrees in Brisbane and 12 degrees on the Gold Coast. They're both very sunny cities, some of the sunniest cities in the country, and they have usually over 100 days of sunshine per year. In comparison, Melbourne only gets an average of 45 sunny days per year, so you get a lot more in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. In terms of rainfall, Brisbane has an average of 76 rainy days per year, whereas the Gold Coast gets 92, so a little bit more rain at the Gold Coast. And both Brisbane and the Gold Coast get around double the amount of rain in the summer and early autumn compared to their winter months. Number 4 is the beaches on the Gold Coast and Brisbane. This is probably one of the bigger differences. So Brisbane has mostly mudflats along its coastline. It does have some beaches, but you have to travel a little bit further out. The Gold Coast is well known for having really big, long, stunning beaches. So it's just lined with beaches. So that is a very big difference. Remember, if you live in Brisbane, even if you're in the city, it's not that far to get to other places with beaches. So you could live in the city in Brisbane and head down to the Gold Coast within an hour, or up to the Sunshine Coast, so you can still get to beaches on the weekends. Brisbane, as I've said in my other videos, has a fun little man-made beach right in the city and a lagoon, so if you're in the city one day, it's a bit of a novelty. Number 5 is time difference and daylight saving. So they are both in Queensland and they're in the same time zone, so there's no differences. They don't have daylight saving because Queensland doesn't have daylight saving. So in the summertime it will get darker a bit earlier than some of the other states that have daylight saving. So the peak of summer it'll get dark around 6:45. Okay, next let's look at the cost of living, because this does vary quite a lot across Australia. In terms of property prices, it's worth noting that both of these cities saw really big increases in the general cost of property through the pandemic. A lot of people left the colder states like Victoria, New South Wales, particularly Victoria where they had so many lockdowns, and relocated up to Queensland, and that pushed up the property prices Also, Brisbane is due to host the Olympics in 2032, and that is apparently going to push prices up even more. Normally, I get the property prices from CoreLogic, which is the big data provider in Australia. They don't cover the Gold Coast, they just cover the capital cities in Australia, the state capitals. So I can't find an exact comparison. However, I found a report on the ABC News website saying that in October 2023, the median property price in the Gold Coast was $901,645. In Brisbane, in the inner city, the median property price was $778,084. And in South Brisbane, the median was $1,012,047. In terms of rental prices, I've got these figures from a website called Numbeo, where people who live in those places can contribute data to it. So this is based on a few hundred people. The average rent per month outside of the city centre in Brisbane was $2,243 for a one-bedroom apartment. And in the Gold Coast, it was $1,943, so a bit higher in Brisbane. And for a three-bedroom apartment outside of the city, Brisbane was $2,683 per month, and the Gold Coast was $2,843 per month. In the same article on Numbeo, they covered the cost of utilities. So the average cost of electricity, heating, water and garbage for an 85 metre squared apartment in Brisbane was $345.50 per month, and the Gold Coast it was only $185.83. A monthly public transport pass in the Gold Coast was $160 compared to a higher $210 in Brisbane. And the food prices did vary quite a bit. They found that groceries were 13% more expensive in Brisbane than the Gold Coast, and restaurant prices were 24% higher in Brisbane. Remember, this is just people sort of adding in their own data, so I don't know how accurate it is, but that's the most accurate I could find. I thought I would add in a section on universities this time in case any of you are moving here to study, or if you've got older children who will want to go to university when you move here. So I'll give a list of some options in Brisbane and the Gold Coast along with their world ranking according to QS, and that's out of 1,500 universities worldwide. So in Brisbane, the biggest and oldest and I think most prestigious university is the University of Queensland. I spent a year there myself. I did an exchange from my home university in the UK. It has over 55,000 students from all over the world, a really large range of programs to choose from, and it has a world ranking for 2024 of 43 out of 1,500. The other big university in Brisbane is Queensland University of Technology, that's known as QUT. They've got over 100 different courses available in business, creative industries, education, health, law, and science and engineering. They're known as the University for the Real World as they have really close links with industry professionals, and its world ranking for 2024 is 189. Griffith University also has 5 campuses that stretch between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. The biggest campus is in Southport at the Gold Coast, and that has over 21,000 students. The world ranking for Griffith University is 243. There's also a private university at the Gold Coast called Bond University, and that covers a really wide range of subjects. That has a world ranking of 567. You've also got a number of universities that are based in other cities, but they have a campus in Brisbane or the Gold Coast. So there is Central Queensland Universities with a ranking of 590, Southern Cross University with a ranking of 651 to 660, Victoria University with a ranking of 711 to 720, Australian Catholic University, which has a ranking of 801 to 850, and in Brisbane there is a fast-growing private university called Torrens University that has courses in design, health, business, hospitality, technology, education and research. There's no data on their world ranking. Okay, next I will cover the general lifestyle in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. They're both a lot smaller than Sydney and Melbourne, so they have a kind of slower pace of life. However, comparing the Gold Coast to Brisbane, I would definitely say Brisbane feels like a bigger kind of proper city, whereas the Gold Coast, it's really popular with holidays. I mean, obviously people live there as well, but it feels more like a tourist destination than Brisbane does, I would say. Brisbane does have lots of attractions. It's got a really pretty riverside area around the city. You can go to cafes and restaurants on the riverside. You can go up and down on the ferry for a scenic ride. You've got South Bank opposite the city on the riverside. That's got the man-made beach and lagoon, and you've also got lots of restaurants there and cultural attractions like theatres and art galleries. You can go abseiling at Kangaroo Point Cliffs. You can do a Forex brewery tour. Also Lone Pine Koala Sanctuaries in Brisbane, that's pretty cool. Brisbane does have really nice green areas as well. It's got really lovely botanic gardens right next to the city. You can go up Mount Cootha where you can see all across the city. Got amazing views there. You can go to Moreton Island, which is a really cool tropical island, North Stradbroke Island, so you can get to beachy places from Brisbane. You can also head inland into the hinterland or out to national parks. The Gold Coast, with all its lovely beaches, offers things like kayaking, surfing, hiking along the coastline. You've got a big variation of suburbs, so I think the most well-known suburb is probably Surfers Paradise, which is quite touristy and has a bit of a party atmosphere. Burleigh Heads I really like, that had more of a kind of chilled bohemian vibe. You can also go into the hinterland in the Gold Coast as well. The Gold Coast is also known for its system of inland canals and waterways, so there's lots of waterfront housing. You can go on scenic river cruises. I did one of those last time I went there. It's really good fun, lots of grand houses along the waterside. You can go up Sky Point Observation Deck at the Gold Coast and you've got really lovely views there all the way inland and up and down the coastline. The Gold Coast is also well known for its theme parks, so Dreamworld, SeaWorld, Wet n Wild, lots of places to take kids to, all grown-ups. You can go to Lamington National Park or Springbrook National Park. If you want to learn more about things to do in the Gold Coast in terms of holidays, I'll link to my 3-day itinerary below. In terms of travel destinations near the Gold Coast and Brisbane, you're positioned really well in either city. It's a lovely tropical area up there in Queensland, so it's really just lined with lovely holiday places to go. Just south of the Gold Coast is Byron Bay, which is really well known, really popular for holidays, got quite a hippie vibe, really lovely beaches, lots of nice restaurants and boutique shopping. If you want to head south on a longer road trip, you can go down to Coffs Harbour, which is a bigger area, lots of beaches again and shops. You can head inland further south to Bellingen and Dorrigo. You can go to beautiful waterfalls or see the quaint little towns and antique shops. If you go on a trip north of Brisbane, you've just got loads of beautiful tropical areas. You can go up to the Whitsundays, all the way up to Cairns, Port Douglas, Palm Cove. You can go on a really long trip up to Cape Tribulation, where the rainforest meets the reef. I went a couple of years ago. You can go up to Fraser Island, a really huge sand island. And just north of Brisbane as well, you've got the Sunshine Coast, which is really beautiful. Lots and lots of lovely beaches again, but it's a lot less built up than the Gold Coast. Also, both cities do have airports, so you can get to other places within Australia from there and head overseas. Okay, that's it for my comparison of Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Obviously, depending on what job you do, you would need to do some research on jobs first. The Gold Coast is a general smaller city, so you definitely need to look into that. If you live in Brisbane or the Gold Coast, or you have lived there or just visited a lot, do add your comments below because it really helps people who are trying to move here and decide where to live. Obviously, I don't know as much as locals do. And if you're watching in current time, I hope you have a lovely Christmas. I hope you enjoyed my Christmas tree. It's a bit wonky, but I don't think you can tell from this angle. Okay, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe for more videos on life and travel in Australia. Merry Christmas!